Thursday, May 22nd, here on the Just Baseball Show. You got managing editor of justbaseball.com and the host of Locked On Mets, Ryan Finkelstein, joining me. I am Peter Apple, and in this episode, we're going over the Juan Soto saga. It's really the media made it a saga, and that's what we're going to break down here. We're also going to talk about the new first place Phillies, which I know Fink does not want to talk about, but I'm pretty excited to talk about. And unfortunately, we have to talk about Jared Jones undergoing Tommy John surgery, but then we're going to have a little bit of fun with Paul Skenes. No, he's not getting traded, but what? We can't have fun here on the Just Baseball Show, and it's all brought to you by the sportsbook born in Vegas, and that is BetMGM. They got a pretty freaking electric promotion on deck this weekend. It's the BetMGM 300 NASCAR race at Charlotte Motor Speedway. They're offering an odds boost token on Saturday, and that race starts at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, get started by using promo code JUSTBASEBALL in all caps for a first bet offer up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first pick loses. But remember, gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 21 years or older. Terms and conditions apply. Think, before we talk about Paul Skenes, Jared Jones, Juan Soto, the Mets, and the Phillies, and of course, I have my last word. Do you know anything about NASCAR?
Not much, I'll be honest. Not much.
Because this promo has me wanting to check out the odds, but I was hoping you knew anything about NASCAR, but I guess not. I guess we're just
My guess is I would just text Clay. I feel like center of the country, he just might have a better grasp of it than me. That's my guess, but just throw a shot in the dark, right? Pick your favorite number.
and I can already hear Aram in my ear making fun of NASCAR and F1 because he's an F1 hater. All he talks about is why would I go watch something that you're only turning to the left? But if I have a couple of dollars sprinkled on it, like I'm gonna kind of enjoy it and with an odds boost token. So make sure to go check out that promo on BetMGM. But enough NASCAR for now. Let's talk about baseball. And the big subject, of course, is Juan Soto, but I want to start with Jared Jones and Paul Skenes. So unfortunately, Jared Jones, he went to Keith Meister and had to opt for Tommy John surgery. It's a year timeline, right? You're expecting him to hopefully come back next year, which is a really tough blow for the Pirates. And we're going to talk about Paul Skenes in a second, but the Pirates, they need some good news, dude. I mean, this is just, at least they see Bubba Chandler shoving in the minor leagues, right? Mitch Keller has been better lately. Andrew Heaney has been good. And of course, Paul Skenes is, I think, the most talented pitcher in baseball. We're going to talk about Wheeler. Of course, Skubal is up there, but you watch Skenes and the talent is just unbelievable. And Jared Jones is like a step below that. As much talent as possible, but the Pirates have no offense, so they need Jones back. So this was just a rough blow, and it's a rough blow to start the podcast, like starting off sad like this.
I think with the Pirates, you're not expecting them to do much this year, but those watching the young arms is what that fan base has right now. It's a
Yes.
reason to go to the ballpark is to see that part of their future, and then hopefully the hitting side can come around, or they can actually step up in an offseason and spend to try to get a lineup that's halfway decent. But yeah, anytime these guys go down, it sucks. And this is kind of like the tipping point, right? Like if the injury happens before the All-Star break, at least, or the surgery, at least there's a shot that he can come back next year. I guess that's the one silver lining is maybe there's enough time on his side to still at least make a return next season. But the reality of these injuries, it could be 2026 too. So it's a rough blow.
So tough. Let's move over to Paul Skeens too. And it's funny because when we posted this on social media, that Paul Skeens is not getting traded per John Heyman, and the direct quote is no chance, no way, no how. And we've been talking about this on the podcast that there's no chance that Paul Skeens would ever get traded. And I'm actually curious, Pirates fans, let us know in the comment section below. Are you Pirates fan A? You go to the ballpark, you want to see the best product on the field, you believe in the Pirates, and you would die if that team ever even considered trading a guy like Paul Skeens. Or are you Pirates fan B? And the reason I'm bringing this up is when we posted this on social media, there was more Pirates fan B than I thought there might be. And Pirates fan B is Screw it. Let's see what we could possibly get for him. I mean, he's the crown jewel in Major League Baseball. You got Gunnar Henderson, maybe as the other one of guys who, are on underperforming teams that, you know, if a meteor hit Earth, that means they would trade him, but at least we could hear some trade proposals. I've seen a lot of those Pirates fans. But again, that's just on social media. So from our listeners, let us know in the comment section below. Are you Pirates fan B? I'd kind of be interested in hearing some teams out. Or are you Pirates fan A saying, I don't want Charrington to pick up the phone. If anyone mentions Skenes, you're hanging up. So that's for the listeners. But for you, you're managing editor of justbaseball.com. You write plenty of articles, all of them fantastic. And you have a new idea for one. Tell us about it.
It's exactly what Aram hates
Yes.
because Aram quote tweeted what was said and said, I can't believe this is even a story. Obviously he's not getting traded. I basically sent Aram that same text and I said, you're gonna hate me, but I kind of want you to write some mock trades for Paul Skenes because it's a fun topic. Now, granted, it will not happen, just like John Heyman says, because the reality is you don't want to make that trade for the fans in Pittsburgh that are not these super diehards that just want to go to PNC, one of the most beautiful ballparks in the game, and watch this guy pitch for the next 3 years and worry about a trade down the line. I think that's what probably a larger majority of the fan base would think. But there is that small minority, the diehard Pirates fan that only cares about them winning a World Series that says, we're not going to win with Paul Skenes for the next 3 years. And at that point, you're going to trade him anyway. So why not just see right now if you did it in the shadows and you just called up some of the biggest market teams in the game who could sell their farm right now in a bidding war because if they get Paul Skenes, it's 5 playoff runs with Paul Skenes. For the Pirates, that's a fleeting window. For the Mets, the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Red Sox, the Cubs, AJ Preller being insane, so you never know. I mean,
I mean,
wh- if you're why not just gather the information? Just behind this, just what is the trade value of Paul Skenes? 5 years. It's insane. It's incomputable, but if Luka could get traded, can't we just open up the dialogue that anybody in sports could get traded?
so one thing I will say is you're getting my brain going because I'm the same idiot that without any rumors just mentioned imagine what the Reds could get for Ellie De La Cruz. And Jack McMullen called me a moron. Arm Layton called me an idiot. But luckily, neither of them are on the show. So if you think like Arm and you think like Jack and you think this is a stupid exercise and you want nothing to do with it, skip forward in the episode. We'll talk about Juan Soto. We'll talk about the Phillies. We'll talk about my last word. You can hear that part. But for right now, can Fink and I have a little bit of fun, people? Can we just
Let's
imagine? Let us just imagine for a second, Aram, you dick. Let us just think about it. Here's the problem, at least for me. As a Yankee fan, you're a Mets fan. I don't think the Yankees could even do it, even if they wanted to, right? Like, would it be Will Warren, George Lombard Jr., and Spencer Jones? I don't think they pick up the phone, or I don't even think they listen for half a second. And then, if I was the GM, I'd be like, you want just our entire minor league system? We'll rebuild it. You can take AAA, double A, single A. You can take them all for Paul Skenes. But I don't think the Yankees should actually be included because their farm system, in my opinion, is not good enough. But there
and
are some teams with farm systems and young talent that could make this trade. It's not going to happen. But
It's
let
it's
us
not gonna
imagine.
happen. But to me, the fun of the exercise is which team would do it. Which team would just say, "We don't care. Here's our top 10. You guys can pick 6 or 7 names, and we'll just move on from there because we have Paul Skeens." And which teams actually have the farm system that can do it? Because I think if Arm actually went through the mental gymnastics, which is the problem is his head's gonna explode. He's just not gonna be able to do it. So we might lose Arm if he tries. But I mean, if you could I just am curious where it would go because if you're the Red Sox, is that a team that would put Roman Anthony on the table? Would they?
They
Would they
should.
not?
I mean, they have right now, you have Duran, Rafaela, and Willie Brady. So you already have your outfield. We're talking about a team with riches. in terms of minor league talent, right? How many different positions is Christian Campbell going to play? Because they need him at all these different positions. I know Casas getting hurt opens up first base for him, but you can't tell me that the Red Sox, if they said Roman Anthony, Marcelo Meyer, and Christian Campbell are potentially on the table in a trade like this, Red Sox fans might even clutch their pearls at that. That might be a little bit too much because we also have to consider Paul Skenes is a pitcher. We just talked about Jared Jones going down with Tommy John surgery. He's a human being who throws 100 miles an hour every fifth day for 6 innings. Things can happen. Of course, I hate to even bring that up. I don't even want to put it into the ether. But what I am saying and what I think is an important note is pitchers and hitters are a little bit different when it comes to trade capital, right? We know this.
Yeah.
So let's think about it. The Red Sox, could they be in the market for him? Maybe. They would have to trade all three of those guys. Another team that I'm thinking about, Braves fans were saying no on social media for this trade that I'm about to give you, which I was like, what are we talking about here? But I understand their thought process, sort of. AJ Smith Shawver and Drake Baldwin. That was floated, just that. No, was the
No.
sentiment from those Braves fans. Again, this is social media. This is not representative of all Braves fans. But what they were saying is Drake Baldwin is our catcher of the future. We think that we're going to get 7 years, 6 to 7 years of an elite top end catcher. And then they see what AJ Smith Shawver has been doing lately, another young pitcher with tons of years of control that looks fantastic. The Braves have a great history of being able to get the most out of some of these arms, out of their bats. They got a great developmental program. And you're seeing AJ Smith Shawver really blossom for the Braves. So, in my eyes, if I'm Alex Anthopoulos, I do that yesterday. But if you're Braves fans that I have seen, they're saying no. Do you think those Braves fans are crazy?
Absolutely. And that's the fun of this topic
Yes,
is
we're having fun.
who's
Sue us.
who's clutching their prospects so tight that they wouldn't do it? Who just says screw it? You know, if you have Skeens at top of your rotation, you can win a World Series this year. It's just a fun conversation to have, and that's why I think the audience should pressure Arm to write some mock trade just to see what they look like. You know, we're not saying it's gonna happen.
All we're trying to do is see what they look like. Please, in the YouTube comments below and in our Discord especially, pressure them.
Yeah,
Pressure them.
it's content. It's just content. We're not.
Content.
Yeah,
We're
that's
just trying
all.
to hang out. We're talking baseball on a Wednesday. Everyone relax. So, okay, so the Braves have been brought up. The Red Sox have been brought up. Of course, my mind goes to the Los Angeles Dodgers. The
Yeah.
fact that they could trade Dalton Rushing, Josue DePaula, Zaire Hope, Jackson Ferris. What if they just turned the two guys that they got in the Michael Bush trade for Paul Skeens?
How about this one? Remember rookie Sasaki wanted a small market team? I
Oh,
mean, just ship Sasaki for Skeens. How about that?
is Ro-
Sasaki and rushing for Skeens. Who says no?
Sasaki and rushing for Skeens? Who says no? Oh, it's got to be the Pirates. They say
Yeah,
no.
of
It's
course.
got to be the Pirates. But I'm thinking
But
about it too.
uh,
Like I like where your head is at. Who are some other teams that could conceivably even make this trade? And I'm thinking
the
like
Cubs, the Cubs.
Cubs are a good one. I have another one for you. Break down the Cubs for a second. Like who would be included in a trade of this magnitude? Also, wait a minute, wait a minute. In division to your rival, if they were so this
That's true.
exercise is already insane. You think they're trading him in division?
Yeah, you know, you could just scratch him because there's just no chance. I mean,
Yeah.
I was just thinking good farm system, good team, but yeah, no.
Listen to this one because we're already going crazy. Might as well go crazy.
Yeah,
What if the Rangers put Langford and Leiter on the table?
it's not bad.
It's not bad. Think about it.
But they'd have to be I guess they wouldn't really have to be in the hunt because you're opening up a new Skeens window. That's what makes it fun. Uh yeah, I don't know.
Orioles? Could they even do it right now? What a gunner for Skeens who says no.
Probably the Pirates because it's just is Gunner a year ahead on service time? That's the problem with the Pirates is service time is everything. It's a ticking clock. So I'd say probably the Pirates say no, but that's wild too.
What would the Mets offer be? Go into your bag right now.
All
Like
right, so,
what do you think? What would it take for Skeens from the Mets?
So here I have thought about this, of course,
Of course you have.
and
I
and to
have too,
me,
but I don't have anything to give.
there's three top pitching prospects in the Mets system right now that are clearly their crown jewels. You got Brandon Sproat, Nolan McLean, and Jonah Tong. Because of the volatility of just pitcher injuries, I would say only one of those three goes, and then anything else is on the table. Like I give up Jet Williams. Carson Benz would be the other one that I'd want to hold on to, but like it's
You're holding on to
Skenes. So
Carson
like
Benj in a Paul Skenes deal. He's too much for you.
only because I've thought this through and I'm thinking about winning in a Skeens window, and you need a center fielder at some point. So if you're giving up Jet Williams, and then you're giving up like AJ Ewing's had a really good season in Brooklyn, Jacob Reimer has had like you could throw together a package. I don't know if that would actually get it done. I feel like the Mets would have to trade like 8 or 9 prospects, but
Beyond the Skeens thing, um, who do you think is the Mets' most prized possession? And I'm not talking about Lindor. I'm not talking about Soto. I'm more talking about this trade deadline coming up. Like, who do you think on the Mets, when they're in discussions for potentially trading for a starter, or trading for a center fielder, or all of that, who do you think is the number one name GMs are going to call for on the Mets?
so like best prospect on the table.
Or even like, for the Yankees, right? It might be Jason Dominguez,
Yeah.
right? So he's up right now, but clearly tons of years of control. People would be all over him. Will Warren, especially, as well, right? In the Juan Soto deal, Michael King was one of the big pieces traded over there. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a prospect. More just curious throughout the organization, who do you think is the number one prize?
I would say about when it comes to prospects that could be dealt, like Jet Williams stands out to me as a guy that it's a shortstop prospect. You have Lindor, you have Acuna already up, at the big league level contributing. I could see Jet Williams being a guy that other teams would want, and the Mets, if it was a big enough trade, would be willing to move. The prize of the organization that they wouldn't want to give up, I feel like, is Benj because they have to try to figure out center field long term. And I don't know if Jet Williams is the center fielder of the future. And they have a couple of the prospects that are, like AJ Ewing has kind of broken out this year. Nick Morabito did last year, but no one feels as safe of a prospect as Benj. So
Hmm.
those are the two guys in the Met system right now that I feel like have the most value internally and externally, and also just those three arms that I mentioned, I think are starting to pick up a lot of value too.
What about Beatty? Would he be a guy that teams are eyeing in on? I mean, he has looked better lately, and he's still a prospect, relatively speaking, with a ton of pedigree.
I
I think
just
he
don't.
was a higher ranked prospect than even Mark Vientos was.
He was. I don't know how much trade value he has. I
Hmm.
really don't. I feel like the Mets, I mean, his defense has looked really good lately too, where I feel like the Mets are still kind of holding out hope that Beatty will figure it out and be their third baseman and Vientos can be their DH. Because the other side of that coin is Vientos has looked terrible defensively this year, like a lot worse than last season. I would also say I don't believe Vientos is untouchable, depending
Hmm.
on what you're getting back. That's what I would say. Like
Expand
I
on that a
could
little bit. What do you mean by that? I like
I
that.
think
We're
I
getting
think
crazy anyway. Might as well get even crazier.
I'm just saying I could see them being open to moving Mark Vientos in the right trade if they're selling high and if they think that their lineup would be fine without him. Whether it was getting another bat back in the trade that's going to be a third baseman if that's what the move is, or if it's just maybe with Beatty progressing, Acuna, Mauricio is finally healthy, the Mets might say, you know what, this is really just only a bat, and he's got a lot of value right now because of what he's done. So cashing it in if it meant keeping other guys they didn't want to give up when it comes to prospects or something. But I wouldn't expect him to be dealt, but I wouldn't say that Mark Vientos is untouchable.
What would you need for him? Would you be willing to part in the right deal, or do you need to get blown away to even consider moving him?
To me, it would just have to be the missing piece for this team, whatever that means at the deadline. I don't know what the holes are going to be for the Mets. Like right now, I kind of feel like the way David Stearns is able to just pull Griffin Cannings out of thin air, like
It's actually
like
unbelievable. I
it's
mean,
insane. So it's almost like if and they have Mania Montas still coming back. So there's so much depth in the rotation. I don't know if that's going to be a need. I don't like getting a bullpen arm. I don't see any reliever that you would trade a Vientos for. So it's just right now, I don't really know what the need's going to be. But if it was clear enough at that point in time where they have another answer, where it's not going to be just Beatty, who's not hitting at third base, if they have someone that stepped up, I just could see it, but I don't really know what the trade is right now.
Fair enough. You ready to talk about Soto? Because
Yeah.
we're going to have a back and forth here. So let me set the stage. And we're a little bit late to this, sue us, but I thought it was important to talk about. So Bob Klappich from NJ.com came out with an article. So let's set the scene. Juan Soto has a series against the Yankees. Doesn't go all that well, right? You got Yankee fans turning their backs on him in the bleachers. You have some of the loudest boos since the Astros cheating scandal. I mean, they were going at Juan Soto. He doesn't perform. Yankees win the series, especially, on Sunday Night Baseball with that home run that went right over his outstretched hand that ended up being a Cody Bellinger grand slam. And then the articles start to pour, right? And this article in particular rips Soto apart, rips him apart. Says the relationship with the Mets is bad. There's stuff about, like, I think this was later quoted by Michael Kay. Again, apologies if I'm misquoting people, but I do know that I saw this, that Soto's family wanted him to go to the Mets, but he secretly wanted to go with the Yankees. There's so much, what's the word? Bullshit flying everywhere. And nobody kind of understands what exactly is going on. So, from a Mets fan perspective, I'll give my Yankee fan perspective. We'll both talk outside of our own fandoms about this all. But as a Mets fan, like, get into your fandom less your managing editor of justbaseball.com job, right? As a Mets fan, what have you seen from Soto? And before the article even came out, what type of emotion were you feeling watching Soto, if anything at all?
I mean, for me, watching Soto this season, yes, he has not had the year that Mets fans were expecting. He has really bad numbers with runners in scoring position. So, from a fan's perspective, you're watching these games, Soto's coming up in a lot of big spots and he's not coming through. And so there is that anticipation of when's he going to break out, and there's starting to be that growing frustration of like, all right, when's this going to happen? But I'm not looking at Juan Soto as any less of a player right now. I'm not thinking that there's anything wrong with Soto or have any worry whatsoever that this guy is not going to be an incredible player on this contract. It's just the anticipation of when's it going to start. And so I feel for Soto because none of us, even though we can all say like, how awesome would it be to sign a $765 million contract? Like that's like the most incredible thing ever. The pressure of actually signing it and having to live up to it and doing it in a contract year across town, then you have to do it still in a big market, but with a new fan base, new media people, new teammates, and it's not clicking right away. Like I think it's just weighing on the guy. And I really don't think that it's something that is going to weigh on him the whole season necessarily. I just think he's going through it right now. But the stories around it, and any Mets fan that is starting to doubt the deal is absolutely insane. Like, and these hit pieces that come out. I mean, Bob Clappish, like one of his, it was something about as he's striking out with more weight in his midsection or something crazy. Like, like the shots that are fired, just unnecessarily is crazy. None of us will ever know what went into that decision for Juan Soto. It could very well be true that at the end of the day, his family all wanted to choose the Mets. That could be 100% true. Doesn't matter now. He's a Met, and so yeah, I think it's just going to take him a little bit to feel comfortable wearing that Mets jersey. And once he does, he'll go back to being Juan Soto, and all this will be forgotten.
Juan Soto is one of the greatest hitters I've ever seen. I personally have said on this podcast, I think he's the greatest operator of an at bat I've ever seen with my own two eyes. Juan Soto is going to be totally fine. We already went over this, that historically in his career, he's a guy who starts slow in April. Right? It's normally like an 800 OPS. It was back in San Diego. He's done it with Washington. With the Yankees, I think he got off to a better foot. I'd have to go check the numbers again. But again, not starting off amazing. And then in May, June, July, he becomes just incredible. And that's probably what's going to happen here again. One thing that I do want to bring up, so again, let's read this quote. These are troubling signs for the Mets hierarchy. I'm told they're concerned about Soto's lack of enthusiasm for his new team. The only time Soto seemed happy this weekend was while he interacted with Judge, manager Aaron Boone, and second baseman Jazz Chisholm during batting practice. I think that's kind of dumb because I think that's his opinion watching the game and then reporting it as facts when, like,
Yeah.
how would you know? But here's one thing that I did notice, and I'm curious if you disagree. I was able to watch Juan Soto every single day, and I loved him because of his intensity. The way he would get back for all those watching on YouTube, I'm trying to emulate it with my hands and stuff. Like he would dig into his stance, and the stare down he would give to the pitchers probably terrified him. I mean, he's grinning. He's like, "I'm gonna kill you if you throw it in the zone." It didn't seem like that in the series against the Yankees, and I bet on Juan Soto over 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs. And, people were calling it a bad beat, right? Giving me an excuse. I'm like, that wasn't a bad beat. He missed so many balls in the middle of the zone. He did not look like the locked in Juan Soto that I thought he was going to be for this series. And I don't have an answer to why. And maybe I saw something that you saw differently. Did you feel that? Because the hustling thing was real. I mean, we're seeing him not bust it down the line. We're seeing where a ball goes down the line at Yankee Stadium and he's in right field, and it looks like he's kind of jogging. These are things that we all saw. But maybe you have a different perspective on all the hustling stuff, and maybe you think he looked locked in that at bat, and maybe I'm just taking this too far.
No, I don't think you're wrong at all about the at-bats. I mean, one thing that a lot of fans have noticed that there hasn't been very much of the Soto shuffle this year. We haven't seen it. He's not taking those takes where he's so locked in that he has that swagger in the box. I think part of that is just the fact that the results aren't there. And if you look at his Savant page, it's pretty interesting because everything is still red. It's still Juan Soto, except
Yeah.
for one thing, which is just launch angle sweet spot percentage, which just basically means like he's just like a fraction off on everything. And I think once he finds that swing again, once he locks back in, all the confidence, all these things will come back. It's almost like for whatever it is, and as a Yankees fan, you'll love this, but I think that Yankees jersey can sometimes be a little bit light because it's such a tradition of winning
Hmm.
that guys go there and they're able to just be part of the machine. And I think sometimes that Mets jersey, because of the Mets history, a little bit heavier. And we
Hmm.
saw it with Francisco Lindor when he first started. Carlos Beltran was a big contract the Mets signed when I was, a teenager, I guess a kid at that point. I don't even remember exactly when that was. But for Beltran, his first year was rough. It's just something that can happen to a player, but the really good players, they end up coming through. I think we've seen that with Lindor as the fan base has embraced them. Like, oh, wait a minute, let's remember Francisco Lindor is one of the best players in baseball. And during his time with the Mets, while his first year was bad, over the last 4 to 5 seasons now, he has still proven to be worth the deal. The same thing is going to happen with Soto. And I will say that I think this upcoming series is a really interesting one. After this Red Sox series, which will be over by the time people are listening to this, there's an off day on Thursday. And then he gets to go back to Citi Field, having put this road trip behind him, where I feel like he's probably been looking at this series, like on the schedule, ever since he signed of, I got to go back to Yankee Stadium, and this is where I got to prove all the haters wrong that I made the right decision. And it didn't happen for him, and I feel like that has probably weighed on him and continued into this last series. So get back home if Mets fans embrace him, and it's still a big series against the Dodgers. Maybe Juan Soto has a big game, and I feel like all he needs is one big game, and confident Soto could be back.
I really like that last point that you made because, sometimes when we see something on TV, when it is a player of Juan Soto's caliber, $765 million, the largest contract in baseball history, we're also tempted to make it something bigger than it was. What if a 26-year-old, right? Remember yourself when you're 26 when you're listening. Maybe you might be a little bit younger. Think of yourself now. You go into Yankee Stadium with 40, 50,000 fans screaming bloody murder at you. You're standing out in right field with some of those Yankee fans in the bleachers. They call them the bleacher creatures for a reason, screaming at you. can it be okay if a 26-year-old just got rattled and it kind of
Yeah.
took him out of his normal routine? Like, these are human beings at the end of the day. Sometimes it's not more than that. Sometimes he is a guy who can get nervous at points. I never saw it as a Yankee, right? And it's so funny because Juan Soto loves being the villain, right? Juan Soto throughout his career has been better on the road than he ever has been at home. Go check the numbers. A lot of his big moments have been when he hits a home run and the crowd goes silent, not loud. So maybe that just rattled him. And that's it. But here's the thing about that is that the hustling thing can't happen because especially with a guy like Juan Soto, he has to know every single eye is on him at every single second of the game. No matter if he's playing at Yankee Stadium, he could be playing the Pirates. Every eye is on him. So they're going to know that he is dogging it a little bit. And I think he probably let that get too much in his head. And the Yankees, on top of it, had a really good game plan for a player that they had on their team and they know how to pitch to now. So you combine all of those things and it comes into a bad weekend. And he's probably like, after the game, shitting on himself silently, crushing himself. And all he needs is just to get out of this noise. And then, of course, in New York media during the Subway Series, where every single fan is watching the game, the Sunday night baseball broadcast, 2.5 million people. I think it was the most viewed Sunday night baseball game in 30 years. Now we can get away from that. But what I will say is, and I was shocked to see it, I think he got rattled for the first time in his career. I mean, this was a 20-year-old Soto shuffling in the World Series. I'd never seen it before. But the thing is, we're all human. Like, he's a human being. I think the story stops there. I think he just got rattled in a 3-game set, and he'll move on.
I have two things on this. One, I think if you ask LeBron James what is the toughest building he's ever played in, there's no doubt about it. It's when he returned to Cleveland. And this is obviously something on a much smaller scale, but it's also a bigger, or not a bigger story because that was the biggest story in sports, but it's a big story in New York. Every single radio show and every newspaper all year is going to be talking about the Mets and the Yankees and Juan Soto, and they really have been since Soto was a Yankee, because even then it was, is he going to be a Met after this season? So I think that that is definitely a big part of it. Like, even though Juan Soto, when it's just about baseball and it's the ALCS against the Guardians, he is the most confident player on the field. But right now, when there's all this other stuff going on, like, I agree. I think it was a little bit about being rattled. And then just to touch on the hustling thing, I think it's an ironic situation because I've also seen people grabbing, Soto when he hits home runs this year and comparing it to last year and how like, oh, he was happier in a Yankees jersey. So this guy's in a lose-lose situation because he's not busting it out of the box when he hits one off the top of the monster the other day.
Yeah.
But if he wasn't pipping the homer, people would have been like, why aren't you happy and excited? Why aren't you confident anymore? You knew you got that one. And then when it comes to the hustle, to me, it's just such a non-story personally because what did he do after he didn't bust it on the ball that didn't clear the monster? He stole second on the next pitch. So it's like I'm not worried about this guy's hustle. I'm not worried about his play. I have all the confidence in the world that Juan Soto is going to be Juan Soto and potentially really soon.
So I want to continue this because I also want to dive deeper into Lindor's first year and compare the two because there's all these stories and it seems so crazy right now, but just a few years ago, the Lindor saga was even crazier. And we've talked about this before, like Anthony Santander. Nobody seems to care that he can't hit in Toronto on his new big contract. So we'll talk about all of that first, but before that, our first break. New team, new contract, new spot, tons of new pressure. You're getting situated. And Juan Soto is not off to the most amazing start. Right? He's only got a 130 WRC plus. Right? Like he's not by far the best hitter in baseball right now. The sky is falling. You know when the sky was actually falling, Fink?
Yeah.
Lindor. And now he's the hero. Now he's on every billboard. Every Mets fan would give their right arm if Lindor stubbed his finger on a wall. They'd give Lindor his entire arm at this point. But take us back. Give us a little bit of a history lesson for those Mets fans, or maybe just fans of other teams forgetting about what happened with Lindor when he first signed that huge deal with the Mets.
I think it is Mets fans that need to hear it and remember it because I think Mets fans can be pretty reactionary. And it is
Think?
funny because over the
Think?
past yeah, yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
Yankee
just
fans are
sometimes.
usually so much more measured and respectful. We're we're all
It's
idiots.
it's just baseball fans.
Yeah.
Who are we kidding? It's every fan.
What are we gonna do?
But no, with Lindor, the funny thing about Lindor is in this past week where Soto's gotten the headlines, he's still been getting on base because he's been taking his walks. And Lindor, I was doing a show, maybe it was 2 days ago, and Lindor was like 1 for 22 in this same stretch. Where like Lindor has really been a big reason why the offense has struggled, but he's now got that earned equity with the fan base of so many big moments in a Mets uniform where he gets more of a benefit of the doubt. And I think that's an interesting thing. No matter how good a player is, they kind of have to earn that benefit of the doubt with their new team. And Soto just hasn't had time to do it yet. But to go back to Lindor's beginning, 2021 was a brutal season for Francisco Lindor. I mean, he was up and down the Mendoza line into June that year. It was a bad year. I believe his WRC plus in the first half was like 83. So, Francisco, and not only that, there was an incident where him and Jeff McNeil got into it in the tunnel, and he tried to play it off like they were looking at a rat or a raccoon. It was a whole story, like a whole crazy New York back page type story that doesn't
Whoa.
really have any legs, doesn't matter, but we talk about it for a week. There was the thumbs down celebration where Javier Baez came in and the two of them started a celebration as a boo to the fans that were booing them. It was an ugly beginning of his Mets tenure, but he's been here for years. He's learned how to embrace the fans and get the fans on his side. And I hope the arc that Lindor went through means that Soto won't have to go through as much of one. And like I mentioned before about a Mets jersey weighing more, I think Lindor's in 2021 when it was the first year of the Steve Cohen era. I think it was a little bit harder to get going as a Met. Where now this franchise is moving closer and closer to being a less of a laughing stock and more of a sustainable winner. Then I don't think that it's going to be again as long of a process as it was for Lindor, for Soto. Also, Soto's just a better hitter. That I just can't see him slumping for as long.
Yeah, can we do this for a second? Because no other show right now is doing this at all. Let's talk about what you've seen from Juan Soto that is positive. Can we do that for a second? Is that okay? Because right now he has a 132 WRC plus. He's got 8 home runs and 6 bombs. He's walking more than he's striking out. I remember when, because obviously, we cover the league, but the Yankees I watch every day, right? Religiously. You're the same with the Mets. So watching a guy every single day is a lot different than turning on the TV and watching, a few at bats, right? It's just different. So watching him every day, what have you seen that has helped you come to appreciate Juan Soto through all the mess so far? Because it's not like he's hitting below the Mendoza line like Lindor. If I asked you this question this time in 2021, you might not really have an answer for Lindor because you're like, he's not hitting at all. Like, I know he will be good. I have confidence that he will be, but right now I have nothing really to say. But you still do have a lot of good things to say about Juan Soto. I know those runners in scoring position stats aren't great, but a lot of everything else is. What has been some positives that you've seen watching him every day?
I mean, I think the approach and everything, like all that stuff is obvious. The fact that he's going to take his walks, the fact that he's not going to get himself out too much, he's not going to be swinging at bad pitches. The swing decisions are all great, but I actually think the thing that you don't realize until he's on your team is how he impacts the other guys in the lineup.
Mm.
And Pete Alonso being the hottest hitter on the planet for the first month of the season. I don't want to say that's all Soto. Pete did a great job, working on his swing over the offseason, get himself in a good place. But there's so many times, even when Pete was as hot as could be, teams would still pitch around Soto to get to him. And I also think for Lindor, that protection that goes both ways. You can see the vision of how the Mets can win big this year, and it's with those three guys atop their lineup. And Soto definitely is that connector that you can tell just makes Lindor's life easier, it makes Alonso's life easier. And so then when he's rolling too, that's when the Mets will start to get really dangerous.
So you would disagree with Frank the Tank that you guys are going to lose your next 100 games and Juan Soto is going to ground into an MLB record 1,000 double plays in those 100 games. You disagree with him?
I think I'll disagree with that take. I think so.
I'm curious. As a Mets fan, what are your thoughts on Frank the Tank? Just rummaging through and just destroying your team every single second you're down 3-0 in the second inning. Like what
I
is it
don't pay,
like? What is it like as a Mets fan? Because I feel like he is a fan that no other fan base has. Like the Mets have Frank the Tank. No other fan base has a Frank the Tank.
I just think that personally, I don't pay any attention to it because it's just clickbait that's gone on too long.
Yeah.
But people still, I mean, I'll still get the text from like, do you see? I'm just, I don't care.
Okay.
Like the guy has, like, he's a one-trick pony. It's like chewing his chew toy and yelling and crying about the Mets. I mean, that's what he does. But I don't pay much attention to it anymore.
Can I be honest with you?
Yeah, you love him.
It's kind of funny. I know it's overblown, but when he has this millennial pause thing where you could tell like he's manufacturing this moment because it starts with just kind of a blank face and then he'll just burst into tears and out of nowhere. And the tweets are so horrific. They're so dumb. They make me laugh. Like I watch Trailer Park Boys on Netflix. That's the kind of comedy I like, just the dumbest people on the earth. So like I do get a kick out of it. Is that a bad thing?
No, no. I mean, there's clearly an audience for it. The guy's got a great following. So there's people that love to watch it, others that just choose not to. But I mean, I don't blame the. I mean, the guy's doing what he's got to do.
Yeah.
That's his bit. He's got to stick to his shtick. I just don't choose to pay attention to it.
More than fair. All right, I think we've done enough with Juan Soto for now. Any parting words? Like if you had to reach Mets fans out there, just any parting words?
Be patient.
Hmm. I agree. I was saying the same thing like before any of this stuff happened. I was like, if I know Juan Soto, he is going to be a freak very soon. And maybe this is a down year for him. Maybe he has a
Could be.
150 WRC plus this year. Like, is that like terrible? Because
It's
that's how
happened.
good he has been. Like, just another reminder 180 last year with the Yankees, 154 the year before, 146 between multiple teams when he was Nationals and Padres, 164 the year before that. 202 in that year 2020. That was obviously a shortened season, but he was unbelievable. 146, 143. Let's say this is his down year. What if he's a 135 WRC plus? Like, he's still a great player. Still a
He
great player.
still a great chance with that 135 WRC plus that is the best hitter on the Mets. Like
I mean, I would say Lindor and Pete probably exceed
But
that,
but
maybe
check
not.
out I
Yeah,
don't even know if Lindor was over 135 last year. I'd have to look it up, but I don't think I think th those guys have not cleared. That's the crazy thing about Juan Soto because he walks so much. His WRC plus is just insanely high, and I would almost venture to guess Lindor's never done that in a Mets uniform. Last year was
137.
129. Oh no, that's
137 for
this year.
Lindor
No,
last
last
year.
year was 137.
So right there. And he
Yeah,
was amazing. He almost won the MVP.
he was the runner-up for. That's my point. Like that's how good Juan Soto is.
Yeah.
His worst is these guys like career best.
Yeah. I want to talk about a story that's just gone completely under the radar. There's a new place team in the National League East, and that is the Philadelphia Phillies. And I'm sure you don't want to talk about it, and that's exactly why you're on to talk about it. Let's talk about the Phillies because right now, as we are sitting here today, they're first place. They're a game and a half up over the Mets, and they've just been sneaky awesome. And this comes from Nugget Chef on Twitter. Great Twitter follow. 2024-2025 Phillies is the first instance of having left-handed pitchers post a sub-2 ERA through the first 10 starts of a season in consecutive seasons. Right? It was Ranger Suarez, Christopher Sanchez last year. This year it's Jesus Luzardo and Ranger Suarez again. Since the 1984-1985 Dodgers, Rick Honeycutt and Fernando Valenzuela. Now, I can already hear people saying ESPN stat. That's so specific. But the reason I wanted to bring it up is the offense has been so good that it's almost kind of now underrating the pitching of how good Jesus Luzardo is, how consistently amazing Zach Wheeler is, Christopher Sanchez, Ranger Suarez. I mean, I know Aaron Nola is off to a rough start, but it's still one of the best rotations in baseball. Jordan Romano, ever since Jose Alvarado got hit with the 80 game PED suspension, has come in May, thrown 7 innings, and hasn't allowed a run yet. McAbel comes up, throws a 6 inning shutout. Now, I know it was against the freaking Pirates, but still, you can only play who's in front of you, and he was fantastic, right? Kirkering has been great in that bullpen. Even Taiwan Walker is pitching well. I mean, he faces the Rockies today as we're recording, so maybe that take will get a little old soon, but we'll see, right? He's been really good. And then we go to the offense, like I said. Kyle Schwarber is hitting a home run every other game in May. And you might say, Peter, you're exaggerating. You're right, I am exaggerating. He has 8 home runs in 18 games. My bad. That's how good he has been. Alec Boehm, 155 WRC plus. Trey Turner is hitting 340. Bryce Harper is hitting 340 with a 150 WRC plus. Brandon Marsh is hitting close to 400 with a 163 WRC plus. And you got the Braves heating up too. So, my question to you is the season over for the Mets and it was always the Phillies and it was always the Braves?
Isn't it wild that the treatment I get here at Just Baseball? I get called in to pinch hit. And this is literally my day. I get a text from Peter, hey, we could use you to pinch hit, and we're gonna talk about the Soto drama and the Phillies being awesome.
Does it
Like
make you feel better that I'm enjoying this a lot?
it makes me feel great. It's like how can I get on the Just Baseball show? Oh, the Mets are in the tank. Let's call Fink up.
This is actually my favorite episode of the year. We get to talk Juan Soto with a Mets fan. We get to talk about the Phillies. And we get to do Paul Skenes mock trades because Arm and Jack are curmudgeons. They're like, that's not going to happen. I'm like, I know it's not going to happen, but sue me. I want to talk about it. So I think this is the best episode maybe of all time. And I'm happy to have you on.
But to actually talk about the Phillies, I for one, I just think this is the team that is the most cohesive. They have been running together now for this is like the fourth playoff run, right, since the World Series. So it's just I think it's a team that knows how to win together. They have a great rotation. They've been able to plug in pieces, and Luzardo was the perfect plug-in, and Zach Wheeler's unbelievable. I am actually rooting for Zach Wheeler to win the Cy Young just because I feel like as good as he has been for this long, I think he has two runner-ups. It'd be great for him to finally get one. The Phillies are a really good team. I do think that the Mets will get back in the race, and it'll be those two teams all year. But yeah, the Phillies right now are definitely playing some really good baseball. They also are in a nice kind of softer part of their schedule too, beating up
They
on the
are,
Rockies. So you do have
right?
to acknowledge that. I mean,
We do have to acknowledge that, but
like
they have been fantastic in May for sure.
they have been, but the Mets right now, like Mets fans are gonna freak out. Just remember, you're playing the stretch where it was going to Yankee Stadium with the Juan Soto stuff, go to Fenway, face the Dodgers at home. I think they get a couple of easier series coming up, and then it's like go to LA and face the Dodgers again. So this is the ebbs and flows of a season. You're gonna see these teams up and down, but the Phillies, I have no doubt that the Phillies are gonna be in this race until the very end.
But see, that type of context is boring, right? Like me and my boy Bob, we're trying to write some articles that are just trashing people. Like we don't have to talk about how it's the weak part of the Philly schedule and that the Mets are having their tough part of the schedule. That doesn't fit our narratives that we want to build, Fink.
That's right. I'm sorry. You're right. The Mets are once again a complete disaster. I think we shouldn't have talked about Skeens trades. We should have talked about Soto trades, you know? Who can take on $765 million? You know?
Soto for skis. Who says no?
I
I have
think they'd have to sell the team to Juan Soto to make that trade, you know?
I have a
But
real question. You might interpret this as a fake question, but I promise you it's a real question. Do you think that the Phillies are better than the Mets?
ah,
Like full season. I'm not talking about right now. I'm just saying, do you think that the Phillies are better than the Mets? Because I would agree with you, and I'm sure you'd say this as well. I think the Mets are better than the Braves. The Braves can get hot and they could finish with a better record, and maybe I'll even be wrong about that. Because when the Braves get going, like, I mean, they're just prolific. But I feel like a good conversation and a good debate, I kind of wish I was a Phillies fan right now, is whether the Phillies or the Mets are better than one. Because we've played around 50 games so far. So we have a pretty good idea of these two teams. And the Phillies do have a better record, but the Mets have been playing really good baseball. And of course, they're going to get Mania back, right? So I'm curious Phillies or Mets? Who are you taking?
I think that the best version of the Mets is better than the Phillies. And
Mm,
what I mean by that is, you know, the Mets have a lot of depth still waiting for them. I trust the front office to find the diamonds in the rough to plug the few holes they have. And I just think that once you get into the playoffs, I like the top of the Mets lineup more than the Phillies lineup. I think the Mets have a better lineup. I think the Phillies probably have better pitching right now. Is where I would actually honestly draw the line. I think the two teams are very close, which is funny because the Mets this year by stats have been the pitching team. They're leading
yeah,
baseball where they had been in ERA. But just if I'm thinking about putting these two teams in a series and just the names that the best lineup the Mets could put together and the best lineup the Phillies could put together and the arms that would go out, I think the Phillies would have the edge in the pitching. The Mets would have the lineup that I think is more dangerous. It's just who's going to, I mean, what we've learned in this division in particular, it doesn't matter who wins the division. In fact, if you win the division, the playoff success isn't really there. It's who gets hot at the right time.
yes,
And it can be any one of those three teams. Like, I'm also not going to say for sure that it's not the Braves because I went into the season, the Braves were my pick to win the World Series. Now, part
yeah.
of that is I was trying to jinx
I
them.
said they were the second best team in baseball to the Dodgers.
But yeah, that's my thing. I think it's really hard to repeat, and that was my logic on the Braves, that it's really hard to repeat. So I think the Braves are the next best team in baseball going into the year on paper. I mean, they still haven't gotten Acuna back.
Yeah.
So
And Strider just came back and he struggled in his first outing, which is totally understandable, right? You're recovering from, a Tommy John surgery, and then you come back and then you get another hamstring injury. So, it makes total sense that he would struggle. He's going to be totally fine too. And then you add Acuna back, and then it's like, oh man, the Braves are coming with the Phillies this good. I mean, the division is just a gauntlet. I mean, the Nationals, right? They beat the Braves, right? They were the ones that hit Strider. They're not just a team that will roll over for you. They're going to be playing spoiler. They have a lot of young talent on their team. Unfortunately, Dylan Cruz just hit the IL. I think it was with a back thing. I'd got to go check that out here. If you, actually, I'll Google it while I throw it back over to you. But I guess my next question, and maybe this is the last one before my last word, like how would you power rank the National League right now? Because you're also, in charge of the power rankings over here at justbaseball.com too. You're always going through those. So, but the next edition won't come out for a while. But I'm asking just for the thought process, power rank the National League right now, maybe the top five.
power rank in the National League is it's tough to do on the fly. To me, the teams that I'm looking at this year as the toughest contenders, if it's not even just a right now power ranking, but the top five contenders in the National League, it's obviously the Dodgers. I think it's the Phillies, the Mets,
The Cubs hang
probably
in
the
there.
Cubs. Like those are the four teams I'm looking at, and then it's just I think Padres, Diamondbacks, and Braves are all dangerous. Is where I'm at. Like
Don't sleep on the Giants either. The Giants have magic to them. I mean, you remember last year, like the Mets had a magic to them. It was undeniable. The
yeah, no.
Giants feel like they have a similar magic here.
If there was ever a year that I'd like them to just throw out leagues, it's this one because I feel like they're so much of the best teams are over in the National League right now, or the American League. It's wild. I was looking at today. I think there's like maybe six teams that are even like three games over 500 in the American League. It's a lot different on the National League side, and it's most of the teams come from the AL Central that are like actually have good records right now. If you look at the AL East and the AL West, it's really just the first place team. So yeah, it's right now, I definitely think the National League is a race that's going to be crazy. It's hard to say, all right, which teams are on the outside looking in come October. There's going to be a couple really good teams to miss the playoffs this year.
And I love this too because going into the season, what was the narrative? Why even play the season? It's the Dodgers. And look at it. I mean, it happens every offseason. The Dodgers are probably going to sign a bunch of people next offseason, and it's going to be the same thing. Why are we even playing the season? And then on May 21st, we're going to be talking about how, yeah, the Dodgers are the best team we think, but they got company here. And that's why baseball's the best because anything can happen. And to your point about the American League, I agree with you. The American League is much weaker, but the Yankees are the real deal. I know I'm a Yankee fan, but they are clearly the real deal. That offense is arguably the best in baseball, and Will Warren is probably going to win the Cy Young, and that's not even biased at all. It's clear. Um, I think the Tigers are phenomenal. They've
Yeah.
just proven at this point. They are. I think they are such a good team going into St. Louis, where we're talking about good teams in the National League. They just took 2 of 3 on the road, and Scooble didn't even have a good start. Like they're a really good team, and I think the Mariners are a great team. George Kirby is coming back soon. He's supposed to pitch actually today. He's returning back to the mound. Gilbert's still out, but they keep hitting. I mean, Cal Raleigh's unbelievable. J Rod's getting hot. Randy Rosarina has been good, and you can go down their lineup. I mean, Jorge Polanco's still standing on his head. So I think the American League does have three legit teams. Thing is, the National League has seven, eight. The
Yeah,
league is loaded right now, and we're in for just such a great rest of the season. You ready for my last word?
absolutely.
So I don't know if you've heard our last word segment. Are you familiar?
I am familiar.
Okay, so here's I have a question for you. What do you think is the largest living organism on Earth?
Some type of a whale.
Nope. Like you probably think of a blue whale, right? I'm talking about an organism.
I have no idea.
So my first instinct, because I was told this, was the giant redwoods in California. But it's actually a fungus, is the largest living organism in the world. It's called Armillaria oystiae. Butchered that. But really, the term is for it is humongous fungus. Specifically, a massive network of this honey fungus in the Blue Mountains of Oregon. And it covers an area, wait for it, 2,400 acres,
Wow.
estimated to be over 8,000 years old. You don't seem very impressed.
Sorry. Sorry. I'm a little bit new to the last word. I guess actually, listening to it live where people see my reactions. Uh,
Sure.
Crazy big organism.
Are
That's wild.
was that not a very good last word? I thought it was kind of interesting.
I mean, it's interesting. It's an interesting fact. Very thought-provoking. I'm gonna go to Oregon and check it out.
You know what? That's fair for you to chirp me. I've been chirping you all episode. I've been trying to poke at you, so I understand it was not my best last word. I thought it was kind of cool, but hopefully everybody enjoyed this episode of the Just Baseball Show. Special thanks to Fink pinch hitting here and just getting ran through the blender. He's like, "Hey Fink, can you come on and talk about how horrible Juan Soto is and how great the Phillies are? Are you interested?" No, I really appreciate you coming on. And outside of everybody checking out the Locked On Mets podcast, what's coming up for you here on Just Baseball?
I just keep a tabs on all the different stories that we have coming up each week. We have such a deep and talented team of writers, and right now in college, all the tournaments are going on, so there's great game recaps going up each day. So just check out justbaseball.com, scroll around the site. There's a lot of good stuff going up every day.
Make sure to go follow Fink on Twitter. You can find his handle in the episode description as well. Make sure to go check out his work, not only on Just Baseball, but of course, watching the Locked On Mets podcast. For Fink, I'm Peter Apple. We'll see you on Friday. We're trying to get all three of us for the Friday episode, Jack, Arm, and I, but we'll see. And then we got a special guest lined up for next week's show. But with that, thank you, everybody.